we can circle back and update those that need it. But thanks again, everyone, for attending. Another session of our GAAB series. This one's more intended to be an update. Well, I'll say it was intended to be an update on the competition season going into outdoors. But as you are more than aware, the update really is now going to be about COVID again. So we had some restrictions announced yesterday. I spent the morning with the team just trying to get some clarity on some of those things. So we'll go through what is current and what is happening here in the next 3 weeks. I think they call it, we've got a whole campaign now around it with the government of Alberta about lowering the spike or stopping the spike, I think it's called. But anyways, we'll get into it. So thanks again for attending. Overview of the session today is really about an update on COVID. I was really hoping we were done with these, but we've got one more cycle of this to get through. And then just a brief association update as well, with the AGM being on Saturday. We did more of a significant update then, so we'll just touch on a few different things here. So again, thanks for attending, and we'll kind of jump into this. So as you guys are aware, announcement made yesterday by the government, our premier, as it affects us as a sport. On Sunday, essentially at 11:59, we have to put these into place. So indoor activities, all indoor sport, performance, recreation is prohibited, and indoor fitness and recreation facilities must close, including one-on-one training. So any of the venues that we've been using for indoor stuff will be closed for the duration of this set of restrictions for one-on-one. And then as it relates to outdoors, outdoor sports and recreations are prohibited except for members of your household or those two close contacts. So I actually just had a call with our representative just on this. You think back to when all of this stuff started 14 months ago, there was this definition, if you lived alone, that you're allowed to have two close contacts for social, emotional well-being in your circle. That's a reference to those two close contacts. So that's how they're defining it. I think we're going to see a change on this within the next few days based on the conversation I just had. So there might be more clarity on that point as it relates to sporting activities. So all group physical activities and team sports are prohibited. One-on-one lessons and training activities are prohibited, and all practice and games are prohibited. So this is essentially in place for the next 3 weeks, starting on Sunday night. So if things go well, the intention is by May 30th, I believe, that these may be eased. But they're going to monitor, of course, and keep us up to date. But a key really for you guys, and we were asked to communicate this, and I'll communicate it here in the next slide, is that there are no exemptions at this time. Exemptions are off the table. And we've been asked to remind you guys not to solicit AHS for exemptions. They aren't going to grant any. So, whether it's an event like CalTAF or any of those things, they're going to remain on the calendar. Everything in our calendar is going to remain where it is. And we'll kind of deal with them as they come up one by one. But we've been told and we've been asked to remind our user groups and our clubs not to reach out to AHS for exemptions because they won't grant them. And they're asking us not to reach out because they aren't going to grant any. So essentially we are shut down for 3 weeks as of Sunday, unfortunately. So a very different message than I was looking forward to sharing today. But unfortunately, this is the world we're living in, and this is the hand we're dealt. So, for the next 3 weeks, we're in a dormant cycle. At that, we'll start open up for questions on those things, and then we'll kind of hit on a few other association things after that. But I think it's good to stop here and give you guys a chance to ask some questions just for clarity purposes. I'll do my best to answer them. I think as we've seen historically through the last 14 months is you're going to end up seeing a tweak to the sport-related restrictions probably in the next 2 days. Certainly before the weekend, I bet you we'll see a revision on the sport-related ones, because what often happens is they make their decisions, then we submit a bunch of questions for clarity purposes. They go, maybe we didn't think about that, and maybe we'll adjust it. So that's happening in the next few days, and I expect that we may see some additional changes to it. So I'll do my best to answer any questions right now. I think it's pretty straightforward. We're essentially shut down for 3 weeks, but happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Question in the chat here from Jan.
Beth, can you read it to me? I don't have the
Can
chat.
athletes train on the track by themselves?
Yes. Yeah, and one caveat here is if the facility allows it. So in different jurisdictions across the province, we're seeing different responses from facility operators. So some of the discussion in Calgary, if we're wanting to do any kind of like training environment where we do a time trial or anything like that, they're telling us, you know, they were saying to us, you need an exemption from AHS. And in Edmonton, they weren't saying that. So there's just a difference between facility operators. So we're saying yes, yeah, Jan, yes, you guys can do that. One, you can go train individually on a track, cross country, those types of things. But if you're using a city or a university or whatever operated facility, check with your facility operator and make sure they're going to allow you.
Paula has her hand up.
Hi, James. And so part of what Sport Calgary is telling us is that the outdoor restrictions are changing to 5 people as of today. So do we have to adhere to the 5 people until the 9th? So for the next couple of days, can we just train as usual, or do you think that we have to adhere to that restriction?
My understanding was that you were going to be allowed to do what we're currently doing until Sunday. So I haven't heard anything about a group of 5 or any other change to that. So essentially this next 4 days was going to allow you guys to transition in and communicate to your athletes to say, here's what's coming. Okay. So I'm not aware of the 5, but again, as I said at the top of the call, it changes by the minute. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, Robin wrote something in the chat that I agree with.
Yeah, it was just the social gatherings, except the interpretation from Sport Calgary was that that would be applied to the sports right away as of today. So, okay, no worries. I mean, the better interpretation is we can go until Sunday.
Yeah, my understanding.
Sorry, is that from Sport Calgary or is that from your facility? Because those are different things.
Well, the information was that they were changing from the government. They were changing the social gatherings to 5 people outdoors as of today, and so Sport Calgary just applied that to all the sports.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just literally, Beth, 6 minutes ago, got off the call with our sport representative, and he told me that we're status quo until Sunday. So let's operate under status quo until Sunday until further notice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's one from Sean. Did you want to read that, Beth? Or I can. Okay, so Sean just asked, what if an athlete is training along with another person?
So the question, it's a good question in a sense of, is that athlete, do they live alone? And does the other athlete live alone? And are these two a part of their individual one-to-one close contacts? And I think that it's hard for anyone to prove or answer that. So my suggestion would be, if an athlete is training along with another athlete, that they just make sure they're distanced, right? They're not high-fiving and in close contact with each other. They make sure that they're maintaining some space so that if anyone comes along, and I think, you know, I didn't put this on here because I don't think it's relevant, but a part of the message yesterday was a fining system and the fact that they were going to increase the fines. Well, I don't know who's policing that or how they're going to police it, but the impression here, and it's about perception. So if 2 athletes are training on the track at any given time, just make it look like they're training alone. You know, don't go in the same car. Don't do things that are going to raise the eyebrow of folks, because, you know, we don't want to be we don't want to end up with the rodeo situation that happened where, complete misappropriation of behavior. And again, just a reminder, guys, you're good to go in our previous guidance up until Sunday. So you can still be in groups of 10. I drove by Rowley on the way home yesterday. There were a bunch of groups of 10 all over the space, well distanced, and that's still allowed till Sunday. So take advantage of it while it's still allowed, and we'll see what we end up with by Friday or Saturday as it's related to these guidelines. Okay, any other questions on this? I think it's pretty straightforward, but I know that there's, even from our perspective, reading them several times, there's a little bit of contradiction and confusion in some of the wording, which is consistent with what we've seen throughout this whole thing. But I think we'll see a little bit of clarity come down the path by Friday, maybe as it relates to sport.
It's just a comment. It's Rob. I'm not surprised this is happening. I totally support the government on this because it's getting ridiculous. When we had more freedom was when we had under 400 people being infected a day. When we're over 2,000, it's not surprising at all. It's disappointing as an official because we just lost 4 more races in Calgary, but it's life the way it is today. We got to live with it. So I guess I'll just keep doing my online coaching courses because there's nothing else right now.
Yeah,
I've done all the officials courses I can do.
That is the state of what we're in. So, well stated in that sense is that's where we're at, and this is what we need to do.
And what I see driving around too, I see groups of 10 people here in Calgary standing on the corner, and none of them have a mask. And you can't tell me all those people are related. I walk my dogs. I have a mask. Say if I see 20 people, I see maybe 4 that are masked. So, what the anti-mask people are saying, that people are getting fed up. Yes, they are. But guess what? People are getting infected too, and they're not getting the picture. So we'll see how it goes. I got my fingers crossed that CalTAF's still going to be on for next month, but we don't know.
That's correct. So let's leave it at that. Unfortunately, it is what it is. I will say this again, you guys have done a great job of being responsible within the sport. So keep up the great work. If there's no more questions on this component, then we'll just kind of jump into the next piece, which is probably equally important, is just making sure that we've got updated information from you guys. When we communicate this stuff out to you guys, it's important that your club administrators get the information and then filter it out to the coaches and the athletes. So we'll jump through into the next set of slides here. But so as many of you have probably seen, new website up and running, and updates are ongoing. So we did a very soft launch, and a lot of the information is getting updated and it's ongoing. So please, if you notice anything that's a link incorrectly assigned or any of those types of things, just make a note of it and send a great email to Beth, and she'll be on top of it to fix it in short order. The key piece here is we've got a club directory there, and we've got a list of admins for the clubs, and we want to make sure that those are all up to date. So please, if you're the admin of the club but your name and contact information isn't correct, let's make sure it's correct so that you guys get this information when we filter it out to you, so that you guys are getting the latest and greatest news. Beth.
I just put the link to the Our Clubs page in the chat, so please take a look.
Yeah, and it's really simple. Just check again, and if you're attending and you're a coach within your club, but your club administrator is not here, just give them a gentle reminder to say, hey, make sure your stuff's up to date on the website, so that the flow of information is actually happening, and the people within our clubs are getting the information. All right. As I said before, we had the AGM on the weekend. Things went very well. Some really great points made and discussions on the topics presented. But just wanted to share with you guys the new executive and board members. So Linda's still in the middle of her term as president. We have a new vice president admin, Sean Casso. Vice President Personnel, Stuart York, and VP Programs, Paula McKenzie. So significant shift in our executive committee, but board members who've gone from the director at large position up into more of the leadership in the VP admin. So really excited to be working with that group. And then directors at large, Christine Laverty, Ian Gordon, Mark Cox, and Corinne Timmer. So again, Corinne was a business director who now moved into a role with a director at large. And then we've got previous representation from other board members. So that's pretty much the call for today. We really wanted to have an open conversation with you guys about obviously the restrictions. And as I said, there was a much different call being planned. so we were planning to talk to you guys about how we're going to deliver events and go through events and our competition calendar, but unfortunately we had shift. So here we are. I'll stop sharing my screen here. But any other comments, questions from the group? We kind of have a little bit of time for an open forum from everybody, and just to share about what we're going through.
Can I make a few comments?
Yes, please.
One thing that was a little confused on arising out of the annual general meeting was the fact that, and I'm not complaining, I'm just observing that it looks like Athletics Alberta is taking some kind of a role in establishing a track facility for Edmonton, which seems to me is really the role of the Edmonton Track Council, I think. And then, of course, the other question, again, I don't want to be a bad guy here, but I'm still trying to figure out how Calgary, I mean, I think it's great Calgary wants to put a track in that's even 400 meters, but it's not even recognized by indoor track is a 200-meter track for indoor sanctioning. So how does Athletics Alberta deal with that if the 400-meter track comes into fruition in Calgary with respect to sanctioning indoor meets? And is Athletics Alberta going to put itself in a financial problem if it's going to take the lead in creating the track situation in Edmonton? Like, who's going to pay for these costs? And the other question for Edmonton is, if it's going to be, I mean, I do agree that Kinsman has turned into a bit of a farce over the last several years because of the way Kinsman likes to use the sidelines for everything else, badminton and God knows what. It's not really it's not the place it used to be, as I've trained there for years. But in this other place, is it going to be the intention that if there's going to be a track, Edmonton Track Council runs that track, and it's not going to have the city of Edmonton dictating policies and changing things around? Because I think that's a very insecure situation for us in Edmonton if the track ends up there and we got another Kinsman situation going for us.
Okay,
A lot of questions.
Lots of questions, Bruce. I'll unpack them one by one. So
Do your best.
Yeah, the Edmonton facility. So what we've done, we along with the other two provincial sport organizations, basketball and volleyball, put a pilot together, and then in that pilot, we were able to justify a use case for Expo. And so then what we did is we went to council and asked for funding support. So we aren't financially in any risk of managing this project. We're simply a contributor. I'm more of a leader in the driving of the project, just with my time a little bit, but there's a committee group that's being assembled with the partnership of the city. But I will say, and I'll kind of answer your first question and the last question, because your comments about Kinsman are very accurate. The challenge we have and the challenge the city's recognized is management of facilities. So there's a study that's not released to the public yet that KPMG did about management of facilities. And should the city be in the management of facilities anymore? Should they actually pass those over to the sport partners? So somebody like the Edmonton Track and Field Council managing a track or things like that. So that study came back very favorably, and I can't share details of it because it's not my detail to share. It's the city's when they're prepared to share it. But what I can tell you is that the feedback was positive in a sense of looking at other operators that aren't tied to the city, because it allows the operators to maximize the use. So there's a lot of good progress there, for sure. But we aren't financially tied to that project. The funding that I showed in the budget was the money that was allocated from the city. We're essentially a flow through of the conduit, and then it goes out to do the work. So we're not financially tasked with managing that at all. So that's
Well, okay, but you're saying Athletics Alberta is not financially taxed, correct? So it would have to be tasked by Edmonton Tract Council,
no,
because they're the ones.
it's being backstopped by the city.
Yeah, but it's not clear though. See, I'm sorry to argue with you, but I'm so concerned because it's not clear in my mind. First of all, if it's being partnered with a couple other sports people, so are we going to have a competition for the time? Because we have our time, and it's specific time, right?
I think there's a much greater detail here that
Yeah.
I'd be happy to share with you, but there's 3 halls.
Oh, I see. So another halls would go for basketball. Okay, I got it. That makes sense.
And
okay, thank you.
And in that process, the city agreed to fund the project, so it's not being backstopped by any of the sport organizations. The city decision, executive council last Monday said they would fund the project. We've worked with city administration to allocate the funds. So yeah, we aren't attached to it in that way though.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So then your other question was about Calgary, and that is a great question. If Donna Dixon, I don't think Donna's with us on the call, but our folks in Calgary that are on the call can probably speak to that a little bit more. But there has been discussion recently with including Athletics Canada about the size and scale of that project. So that project is significant with regards to cost and size. And the harsh reality is they've been chasing that project for a very long time, almost I think back 30 years. Christine can probably speak to that, maybe longer. But the reality of that project coming to fruition, I think, really is determined by whether there is an ability for the city of Calgary to look at pivoting and thinking about a smaller scale project, because they've allocated $100 million to that project, and it's roughly 250 plus. So let's say they're a third of the way there. I don't know where they're getting the other 2/3 of the money to make that thing go forward. So I think that at some point they're going to have to look at an alternative solution. And we've been in those conversations along with Sport Calgary, Athletics Canada, about potentially looking at it.
No, I think what's missed in the point is that IAAF says that indoor track is 200 meters. All across Europe, we have indoor okay, that's what IAAF says is the proper recognized sanctioned track. What Athletics Alberta may get itself into a little bit of a knot in is if Calgary builds a 400-meter indoor track with no 200-meter track, unless they say we're going to put a bank track within it, and hopefully they would do that. But if they don't, then Athletics Alberta is going to be put in a horrible position about sanctioning a meet in Calgary, and you don't want to insult Calgary because you can't sanction it properly.
Well, and Bruce, you'll be happy to know that I've written letters of support stating those exact facts. So
There you go.
I've
I mean, I'm just worried, because because I used to be in the Athletics Alberta board years ago, so I have an understanding of the importance of Athletics Alberta in relation to the, to the sanctioning of meets all across Alberta. And if they don't satisfy Athletics Canada and IAAF, you got a problem. Exactly. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah, and even from a revenue perspective, you don't have the ability to attract the major events that you want to support the venue. So if you can't attract the events and supplement your operating costs with event revenue, then you're really putting yourself in a sustainability challenge of long-term project.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, finally, someone from Calgary gets to speak. So I belong to the Fieldhouse Society, and I can let you know that the outgoing mayor kind of stabbed us in the back because he announced as he's leaving politics that they're going to build a brand new outdoor 400-meter track over in his ward. That's his gift to his neighborhood. But I happen to know that the young man who's coming in and I think is going to replace him, he is a very strong supporter. Now, as to this matter about the 400-meter track, as someone who's still a competitive runner, and I hope Doug Lamont will support this, we've done races together. As we get older, it is terrible running around a track because of the damage it does to your knees because you're running one direction. So the less laps there are in a race, the better. I hate the Butterdome because it's a 200-meter track. And if I'm a 1,500-meter runner, I can't do 1,500-meter races because my knees won't take it running in one direction. A 400-meter track would be great because the longest race I do in track anymore is 400 meters. I got to do one lap. I got to do 4 corners, not 8 corners. So I think it's time that the IAAF, if any of them ever were runners, pull their heads out of their butts and start thinking about this. Because I think this is a new wave that should be going right across the world. 200-meter tracks are dinosaurs.
Anyone in the Calgary Fieldhouse group? I think there might be a few others on the call. You want to share your thoughts on that? Thanks, Robert. Beth?
Hey, folks, I just wanted to give another sort of admin thing. You're all going to go check your club status on the website and let me know if there's any changes. But one other thing, there's been like 5 people sign up after 12. So I've tried to get to you when I noticed you, but I just want to say these association updates, we need you, like there's a new Zoom link for each month. If there's any confusion around that, and the reason we want that is because we need to see who's registered for many reasons. A, making sure all of our clubs are getting the information, but also B, we need to report, and there's tons of stats that are required of us. So yeah, just to be very clear and to make sure there's no confusion, each of these association updates will require a sign in, preferably before they start.
Yeah, and we get it. Everyone's busy, so you know.
You're talking
Where to
You're
track I
talking to
lose
me.
people.
The president didn't even sign up properly.
I
Oh my gosh.
that's I figured if you didn't get it, there might be others that didn't. So I thought I'd just share that.
All right. Well, I made it in finally,
You
but apologies. And if anybody else forgot to do it,
Oh yeah, there's a few.
okay,
Oh, good,
but
it's being recorded.
you're not alone.
Okay, anything further from anybody? I know, like I said, the message was much different than the message delivered. So we're here for you guys. We're here to support you guys and walk with you through this. And as I indicated earlier, any changes that we do here, we'll be sure to communicate it out through our communication channels and website and the social media and everything else. So
James,
yes.
since a few of us missed the first 5 minutes, can you just recap really quickly, like just in like a summary statement, what we can and can't do?
As of Sunday, you can't do much.
Okay.
So Sunday at midnight, we are restricted from essentially Sunday through to the end of the month. And
Even outdoor?
outdoor is allowed basically individually.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Thank you.
No groups.
That's all I want to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
And we'll put the deck will be on the website, so you guys
Okay.
can refer to it there. But
Mhm.
again, it'll probably change today, maybe tomorrow. But I would say it'll change before Sunday. So
Mhm.
stay
Okay.
tuned.
Thank you, Beth, for putting up with us.
It makes me happier. Really.
Okay.
I'm a bit of a nerd.
Oh, God.
Thanks everybody for attending. Short and sweet today for sure. And as things evolve, we'll keep you up to date. And then, like Robert said, I'm hopeful that things can remain on the calendar in June. Hopefully we do our job here. We lower the spike and we're back at it, and things can get activated again. But fingers crossed. And again, kudos to you guys for doing a great job to this point. Keep it up. Okay, take care, guys.